Okay, so in this video, we're going to discuss how to use the vlookup function in an actual context to actually merge the various data sets that we were looking at in class. Okay, so notice here I have the Excel document set up in the way we had it in class. So I have a file here called main, which contains all of the various counties in the United States. Okay, so we have the state and then the county name, and then the state federal identifier, and the county federal identifier. And then over here we have all of the raw data, okay, all of the raw data that we were looking at. Okay, so, and we're going to start with the raw demographic data. Okay, so this raw demographic data, this file contains the state FIPS, the county FIPS, okay, and then a bunch of information like the public school enrollment and the educational attainment. Oops. Let's not make that so wide. So educational attainment, public school enrollment, etc., etc. It has all this data, right? And so what we want to do over here is I want to know what is the public school enrollment of Autauga County, Alabama, of State 1, County 1. Well, that information is in here somewhere, okay? In fact, if I scroll down, okay, if I scroll to column 1995, oops. C 1995. Okay, you can see here it is. Okay, here is the data that we want. Okay, row 1995. Okay, here's state number 1, county number 1, Autauga County, Alabama. Here it is, this row. What is the enrollment? What is the public school enrollment? It's 9,923. So we want to get this value over here. Okay. So how do I do that? So I'm going to say equals vlookup. Okay. Now, well, okay, immediately we run into a problem, right? Because I can only look up one thing at once. Do I want to, now if I tell it to look up the state number, well, it's just going to report to me any value in Alabama. Okay. If I tell it to look up county number 1, well, there's a county number 1 in every single state. Okay, so I have to, first of all, combine these two pieces of identifying information into a single value that I can look up. And I need to do that in both of the tables. Okay, so that's my first task. So I'm going to create a new column here called lookup. Okay, and I'm simply going to combine these two values, the state FIPS and the county FIPS, separated by an underscore. So I'm going to say equals, I'm going to select the state FIPS, ampersand, in quotes an underscore, another ampersand, okay, and then I'm going to select my county FIPS. And you see what that's going to do is it's going to create a string of text, 1_1, and 1_3, 1_27, etc. Okay, it's going to combine these two columns into a single value that I can look up. Same thing over here. Okay, I want to go do this in the data set where the data is actually contained. I'm going to insert. Okay, look up. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say equals. I'm going to select the state FIPS, ampersand, underscore, ampersand, county FIPS. Okay, so I create this lookup value, okay, in both tables. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to main. Now I'm actually going to use the formula. So I'm going to say vlookup. Okay, what value do I want it to look up in my table? I want it to find the public school enrollment of 1_1, comma. Where is my data located? Okay, now here it's very important that the leftmost column is the beginning of the data set. The leftmost column is the lookup values. Okay, so I'm going to start with this cell, and then I'm going to go over to the end of our data, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom of our data. Okay, so you can see that this range here is sheet raw demographics. Okay, and then you see in here, what do we have? We have C2, okay, that's the first, the top left cell of our range, all the way down to the last cell in our data set, which is AA 3146. Okay, now, our data is always going to be contained within this range, so I don't want this part of the formula to change when I go to another cell. So I'm going to lock this entire range. Okay, so I'm going to press Command T, okay, and notice that this locks this entire range. So I have $C, $2, $AA, $3000, 146. Okay. Okay. So here's our lookup value. Here's the part of the data. Here's our actual data. Okay. And then what column do I want? Well, I want the first column after the lookup value, which is going to be column 2. Okay. And then once again, this last part, we're always going to type false here. Okay. Press enter. Okay. And now notice, look, there it is. It's looking up this 9923 number. Okay. Now, if I had specified a different column here, suppose I had specified column 3 instead of column 2, what would it be looking up then? Well, the answer is that instead of looking up the public school enrollment figure, okay, this 9,923, it's going to look up the value in the next column, in column 3 of our data range. Okay, it's going to give me this 1510, right? If I were to change this to column 4, okay, it would give me the next value over. It would give me this 3199. Okay. Okay, but we don't want that. We just want the first value, the school enrollment, so we want that. Okay. Okay, now just like in the previous video, okay, I'm gonna make a few changes to this formula so we can do things quicker. Okay. The first change that I'm gonna make is, again, I want to cell reference this 2. Okay. I don't want to have to say this is 2 and then the next cell over say 3 and next cell over say 4. I don't want to have to do that by hand. I'm just gonna put the 2 and the 3 and the 4, etc. Whoops, and the 4, etc. up here. Okay, so I'm going to create a whole bunch of those. I'm going to drag all the way over, create a whole bunch of those. Okay, and then I'm going to modify this formula. So instead of this 2 here, I'm going to replace it with a cell reference to this 2 up here. And again, when I do this, okay, I want it to update correctly when I fill these things downwards. So the way I currently have it, notice that the problem with these subsequent formulas is it's always looking one above to find the column number, but that only works for this first cell, obviously. Okay, so instead of saying F2 here, I'm going to lock the row. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say always look up what's in row 2. Okay, it's always going to be the second column. So I'm going to put the $sign here in front of the 2. Okay, and when I update that downwards, you'll notice that all of these values are properly correspond to column 2. Okay, they're always referring to, I always want to look up the public school enrollment in my actual data, not some other variable. Okay, now, okay, over here, if I extend that, okay, we'll notice, okay, well, now there's another problem. It's looking up the 3 correctly, okay, but that first argument here, the actual value that it's looking up, this 1_1, we want that to stay the same, but over here, it's trying to look up this 9923 number. No, we still want it to look up this 1_1. Okay, well, how do we fix that issue? Well, what we need to do is in our original formula, okay, we need to tell it to lock the column. So I'm going to put a $sign in front of the column. Okay, now when I update this number this way, it's going to continue looking up 1_1 rather than this 9923 figure. Okay, so now this formula basically has all of the features that I need. Okay, so if I update this formula over to the right, okay, you'll notice it's just looking up all of the data corresponding to Aldega County, Alabama over here. Okay, so it's looking up all of that data. And if I update it downwards, let's say I select that whole row, update it downwards, okay, you'll notice that it's properly looking up. So the next one that it would look up is Baldwin County. So it's going to search over here for 1_3, okay, and it's gonna give me the appropriate numbers for Baldwin County. Okay, and here it is looking up all of that data for us. Okay. Okay, so that's basically the procedure, so how far do I want to go over? Well, as it turns out, if I go over beyond the range of our data, I start getting our reference errors. Okay, so our data set in this raw demo sheet, okay, it's basically 25 columns wide. Okay, so I go over here to column 25, and then beyond that, there's no more data, so I can delete these extra ones. Okay, and then I want to do this for our entire data set. Okay, so how do I do that? I'm simply going to select this first row, okay, and update downwards for our entire data set. Yeah. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so we've now looked up all of our data. Okay, now there's a few remaining issues. Okay, so notice that up here we don't have any labels for these variables. I mean, I told you that this first column is the public school enrollment, okay, and the next column is educational attainment, and then the next column after that is some other measure of educational attainment, okay. So I mean, I could look back onto this sheet to know what these variables actually are, but again, I don't want to do that. Okay, I want to just have the computer do it. So what do I want to do? So up here, I'm simply going to cell reference. I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to cell reference this first value here, public school enrollment. Okay, so that we know that this first column here is public school enrollment. And I'm going to simply take that, and I'm going to drag that across. I'm going to go to the last column. Okay, and notice it goes all the way to water use per capita. And if I look in my data set, you'll notice that this data set goes all the way to water use per capita. Okay, so what I've done here now is I've properly looked up I've essentially merged this demographic data into our main data set here. Okay? Okay, good. So, okay, that's the first step. Okay? Now the second step is to merge in the remaining data files. Okay, so let's show one example of that. So let's say that I'm interested in merging this in this raw age data. Okay, now let's have a look at this raw age data. Okay, it's a similar situation. Okay, as the raw demographic data. The first thing that we need to do is to create this lookup value that contains both the state and the county FIPS. Okay, so I'm going to go here and zoom in a little bit. Okay, insert a column, call it lookup, and I'm going to do that same thing where I put together the state and the county FIPS. So I'm going to select my state FIPS, ampersand, underscore, quotes, ampersand, county FIPS. Okay, so here's that lookup value. Okay, and then I'm going to go here, go back to my main file. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, I want the age data. Okay, I want all of the data in the same sheet. So we've already filled in the demographic data. So the age variables are going to start here. Okay, we're going to start here. So I might as well hide some of these columns in between. So I'm going to, just so that we can see what's going on. So I'm going to hide some of these columns in between. Okay, so to do that, just select those columns and click hide. Okay, so here's lookup. Here's the first value of the demographic data. Here's the first variable in our demographic data. Here's the last variable in our demographic data. And then starting here in column AD, I'm going to start looking up my age data. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new set of these column labels. Okay, so here, remember, it went from 2 to 25. So here I again want to go from 2 to, well, I don't know how many variables there are exactly, but let's just make a bunch. Okay, and then I'm going to say, okay, equals vlookup. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, what do I want to look up? 1_1. Where is my data? My data is in raw_age. Okay, I'm starting from my lookup column, so I'm starting from this 1_1. You always in the data that you're looking up, okay, and then the actual data, you always want the lookup value to be the first column. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to hold down Shift and Command. I'm going to go all the way over to the right. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and then I'm going to press Command T to lock that range. Okay, so once again, vlookup 1_1, comma, I'm going to select my data, raw age, starting from the topmost value, starting from this 1_1, going all the way to the right, going all the way down, lock that set of values. Okay, my column index is going to be this number up here, 2. Okay, and then, oh, I actually don't need this. Excel put in this main, this little main exclamation point automatically, but we don't really need that. Okay, we just want this AD2 cell. Okay, and then finally false. Okay, and press enter. Okay, notice if we go over here to see if it's working. Here's our age data. Here's Autauga County, Alabama. What is the first age variable? The value of that is 50354. Okay, here's that 50354. Okay, but just like before, I need to make the proper changes. I need to lock the column index of the lookup value. So I need to put a $sign here. Okay, and here I need to lock the row index of my column indicator 2 up here. So I'm going to lock the row here. Yeah. Okay, and then now if I update that across, if I fill that in across, it's going to continue looking up the rest of the age data. And then if I update that downwards, it's going to continue looking up the appropriate county and state values. Okay. So I'm going to do this as far across as I can. Okay, it apparently goes out to 27 columns. Okay, I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to double click here to fill downwards. Okay, and now it's going to look up the rest of our data. Okay, and then finally, same thing as before, I want my data to be labeled properly. Okay, so I want to press equals, and then I want to cell reference, go back here to raw age, and I want to cell reference my variable names, which are, in this case, just these kind of generic names. Okay. And delete the rest of these columns. Okay, so now we've merged in both the demographic data and the age data. So you're going to repeat this process. For the other parts of our data. Now, there's a few caveats. Okay, there's a few caveats. As you're working through them, you'll realize them. Okay, the first caveat is that in our economics data, the identification number, the state and the county identification number are combined in a single string. Okay, so how do we look that up? In our actual lookup table, we just have the state FIPS and the county FIPS separated into their own columns. Okay. Now in class, I tried to modify this string. Okay, but we're actually going to do something a little bit simpler, simpler or harder, depends on how you look at it. Okay. So here's how to convert. I'm actually just going to convert these. Okay, the state FIPS and the county FIPS in my main data table in my lookup to the proper format so that we can actually look up our economics data. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a few columns. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my sheet main. I'm going to insert a few columns. Okay. The first column that I'm going to create is called state. I'm going to name it state padded, okay, because we're going to pad it with zeros. I'm going to call this county pad, and then here I'm going to call this lookup pad. Okay. Okay. So we need to get this in the same format as this. So how do we do that? So I'm going to say equals, I'm going to use a function called text. Okay, this function takes 2 arguments. The first value, I'm going to select state fips, and then under the format text, I'm going to type in quotes 0, 0. Okay, and what that'll do, you see, is it'll pad our state data with a leading 0. Okay, so here's 0, 1. The rest of them for Arkansas becomes a 0, 2, 0, 4, etc. Here, I'm going to say, I'm going to pad our county data with 2 zeros. So I'm going to say text, I'm going to select the county FIPS, and then I'm going to put in quotes 3 zeros. And then notice, okay, great. Now our county ID has also been padded with an initial 0. And then finally, I'm just going to combine these 2 values. So I'm going to say state pad and the and symbol and county pad. Okay, so finally, this value that I have here, okay, this lookup pad is going to be the same as what I have over here, as the federal identification number over here. So here's 01001, okay, and here in my main data set is 01001. Okay, so now I can use the same techniques that I used before to look up this column. Okay, okay, so you want to use that technique, okay, to merge in the econ data. Okay, and then finally for the let's see. Well, actually, so the crime data is formatted more similar to the other data sets. So that's really the only caveat that there is. Okay, so you can use the same technique now. Okay, merge in all of the data. So look up the crime data, look up the age data, put all of the same data into a single sheet, just like this, with the variables going across. Okay, and that's all you guys need to do for your homework. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. If you have trouble, post on Piazza or come see me in office hours. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday.